Can I do this? No? Okay, I won't do this. Hey, everyone. Hey, it's a pleasure to be here. Wow, these lights are crazy. It's like you guys are not there. I'm just going to wait for this to get all loaded up here. What I like about the last panel to my conversation is it relates to the way that I program at Facebook or curate or whatnot, in the sense that there's a lot of different languages in the world and in the art world. And art is a wonderful metaphor, tool for metaphor, I think. That's something that, like, it can, you know, pass through all kinds of literary languages or linguistic languages, which is a powerful benefit to what it is, visual art. And to have these folks talking about the ROI of art and the market of art, and then have me come up. Oh, how do I get this? Hello. Talk about a program that I built as an artist that largely is at odds with the market and is critical of the art market. So just to get that, like, provocative energy out there up front, the Facebook Artist in Residency program was designed against market justifications. We invite artists who don't have a market at all for their work in many cases. Many artists don't sell any work. Some artists sell some work. Almost none of the artists of the over 300 artists that we've worked with in the last 5.5 years have any auction record. So we are not there to try to amass wealth for Facebook. They're plenty good doing that on their own. We are there, I'm there, and my team is there to bring intentionality and authenticity and a fabric of culture to the space, which my team and I believe is a lot more valuable than all that money. We also are more interested in the artist as a mentor and as a role model to all types of people. Whether you're a janitor, a lawyer, a marketer, an engineer, there is an artist way that can be applied to all of our work. You know, we could brush our teeth like artists if we want to get into it like that. And so to show that example, we can't just show finished work, because the art market is pretty exclusively focused on the final products of art. But what about the person and people who make them? And so to start off this presentation, I'm going to let one of the more recent artists that we worked with speak about these issues more eloquently than I can. I didn't figure out how this thing works yet, so let's see. Do I just press the center button? It's a double click, I think. There we go.
I never work from my imagination. I like to work with real people because I can connect more. There's more of the personal that I like to convey. Over the years, I tend to work with people that are not known to me. I think I like that aspect. And through the relationship, the conversation, I get to know them afterwards. If they're too familiar, it's like all the questions have already been answered. I like to unpack, I like to pick, I like to understand, and within that relationship, reveal their personality at some point. I like that kind of engagement. I'm also interested in the ritual between myself, the sitter, and the plane. The drawing, I love drawing because it's very accessible. It's light, it's practical. It's, in comparison to painting, it's a different language. It's succinct, it's graphic, it's clear, and it's very revealing, it's very immediate. The images are large, they're meant to be large because it's about power. It's taking the ordinary and taking it to the extraordinary. When I'm working on that size, I'm using my whole body. They can be very laboured, intense, and quite developed, and some of them are quite loose. that is a strategy so that the audience can come in and find their way into the work and interpret it, or find an anchor to it that I haven't. So I'm having a conversation with drawing, a long conversation with drawing.
So as Barbara Walker, London-based artist, is showing there, I wasn't kidding about the lack of market interest. Sophie, hi Sophie, you're the best. Sophie is here. She's a local artist. I'll show you some of her work if I don't go on too long and don't get to that part of the presentation, which often happens. Yeah, so you see this work, it's great. We had an artist in, she made this work. We can't take it to auction, even if those artists were to have their value risen or whatever. The value of it really is that in this office in London, there's maybe 800 employees coming in and out of this space, bringing guests, bringing other industry people, and these works stand and speak to these people, and that's it. But that it is worth a shitload. It's really valuable for people that I could keep going with this image stuff. That there are these works that are in the environment, that are owning the space, that are in dialogue with the architecture, which means they're also kind of in dialogue with the sociology. So for a tech audience that is maybe not art educated or that art focused or interested, all of a sudden the way that the art is woven into their environment allows them to feel a sense of ownership when otherwise they might feel confused or not understand what it means or have a relationship to it. This kind of is allowed to wash away some of those barriers that the art market builds up against society at large. And so how this all came to be, and just to try to reinforce that this isn't some corporate initiative to look a certain way or feel a certain way. This is David Wilson's event from 2007. This is Luke Wilson performing music at Angel Island. So I consider myself a platform builder, an analog platform builder, and so does David and Luke and a lot of our friends of the art community. It became very much a kind of mainstay of the art community that I'm a part of to not only have a visual practice, but to also find some way to creatively support the ecosystem of artists around. So whether you build a zine to invite your friends into, put on shows, put on social events, I think that the Bay Area art scene, though it doesn't really participate in a international art market situation the same way that New York or even LA does, there is an integrity here and a sense of community that is very authentic. And since that's what we're talking about, it's worth showing that this kind of event is where a lot of the roots for the Artist in Residency program at Facebook began. This is a composting toilet. This is the first one that I made. Once I started getting really excited and inspired by the platform that David was building for artists, chefs, poets, non-artists, all types of people to come out and interact and connect with nature, it became clear that these groups to be together for longer than a few hours needed some infrastructure. And I felt so moved and grateful for those experiences. I wanted to use my creativity to support that, and that involves supporting how we all could manage our pee-pee and poo-poo. And so as I got into it, I learned a lot more about this, got excited, showing the process, because the process is important. I think there's, again, that universal metaphor in all this. This is a urine diverter toilet that I developed with a few friends. And so we learned that when urine and feces co-mix, that creates an anaerobic relationship, and that's where a lot of the smell that we equate to a bathroom experience come from. But when you're in the out of doors and your urine and feces can be diverted from each other, you can just have this beautiful, pure, don't feel bad about your body or your waste thing. And it's wait, what does this talk about? But yeah, this is important because what's having an art experience? What's having any experience? For me, it became more important to not contain art into art. It is more about what's a profound experience you can have. And I'm telling you, if any of you have a chance to go to the bathroom a composting outdoor toilet or take a shower outdoors, you're going to be hard-pressed to find a painting that you looked at that provided you with a more intense experience than these opportunities do. So why mince what they are? This is the first outdoor shower that I made up in Ukiah in one of these projects. And then it grew and there became more. This was for a wedding project that I'll show the kind of sculpture, social sculpture platform that I made in a second. And then, teepees, cabins. I knew that in these years when I was building these opportunities to bring artists, family, friends out into natural places, these outdoor platforms to commune, to be intimate, to have these authentic experiences. There was like conversations and vulnerabilities and kind of a nudity happening socially that is really difficult to create in an urban environment or in a corporate environment. And so when I was invited back to make art with Facebook, I was really interested in how some of the opportunities and experiences that I had been able to design in the outdoors could bring themselves into a workplace and how powerful it would be if that could work. And so just to wrap up these outdoor projects, this is a whole community of people building this classroom for artists and teachers to come and stay in. These walls were made from clay from the earth that was harvested by this group. Every part of this structure was made by the community enjoying and participating in this space. This is the finished result. And another thing that's important about art in the way that I look at it and the way that it's expressed through the Facebook Artist in Residency program is aura, that hand-hewn objects are real and that some materials are more porous to human energy than others. Clay, wood, paint, canvas, linen. These materials are very ripe for human energy to be worked into them. And so much of what I think we all love about art is in that aura that is built in to the works through the process of the art being made. Again, back to why there was a residency program for art to be watched being made instead of just appreciated once it's done. Last of these, this hippie pre-Facebook residency program projects. This is a friend's wedding table. The couple wanted to be able to sit at one table with their 230 guests. Of course, logistically, that's not really possible. But experientially, we worked and designed a system to try to authentically create that experience so that when the bride and groom sat at the apex of this table right here, this is the view they had, they could make eye contact with every one of their 230 guests. And this is, I think effective. The person hosting this wedding is an executive at Facebook, and he was one of the two executives at Facebook who hired me as a creative and provided me with a shitload of trust. And that was empowering to me in a way that allowed me to personally make the most profound art I've been able to make in my life. So when they invited me back to Facebook to make art again, I was interested, but I also was more interested in trying to be able to provide that opportunity to other artists. That there's something transformatively powerful about engaging in an artist you believe in and trust and providing them with a platform, resources, space, tools, and an audience to push themselves outside of the bounds they've been before. And that's what my life's work has been about for the past 5.5 years. Starting in 2012, we kicked off without even a lab space. I painted this artist in residence outpost where we, I'm going to switch and move these around. So this was the outpost. This is Jay Nelson, one of the first two artists in. And in Facebook's headquarters, in the courtyard, he was literally running table saws and chop saws, making piles of sawdust. And letting his old truck leak oil onto the floor of this space. These shipping containers were leaking and they were not permitted to be there. And actually the building that ended up being the space that houses our studio, when the fire marshals came to inspect it and saw this stuff, they shut it down and it delayed the building opening by like a few months. So, No one got fired. The program didn't get shut down, but that was like the first case of the kind of provocative nature that we were trying to employ in this project. Actually, Dave Wilson, in making this dear friend invitation and hand delivering it to 2,200 employees around the campus, inviting them to come out to the salt flats and visit with him and chat with him and like look at the drawing he was making, had security called on him, I think 6 times, because people were unsure as to why someone was dropping something analog out on his desk. That's when we realized that one of the metrics we wanted to employ was number of times security called, and the more that you had them called for benign reasons, the more powerful your project was. So David invited people out. He also, part of this invitation that unfolds, invited people to receive a copy of the print that he made. This really hurts the whole market thing where you're offering people free print of an edition that will be determined by the number of people who elect to receive it. But he had a physical wood box in a corner of the campus, and for 430 employees to take this invitation from their desk, fill out their information, tear that corner off of it, and physically find this place, it was a really profound thing. People at Facebook and other tech companies feel a lot of pressure, are really busy. I mean, everywhere. It's not specific to tech, I don't think. But that opportunity to break people from their regular habits, to show them something they didn't expect, to ask questions, that's also the power of all this stuff. That artists who can really, in their work, are grappling and curious and not trying to present any solutions or resolutions, but to just provoke more curiosity. This is the end result. The top drawing is the drawing that he made in panels, 8.5 by 11 panels, which he then shrunk down in half and made a color layer, and then the bottom left is the final print. And then Jay again. This is me and what Jay's final project. My head's big, so it looks smaller than it is, but it's a wonderful place that every time I go there, there's at least one, if not multiple people hanging out in there. Nat Russell, we have a risograph machine and a print studio, so the whole thing, again, is like you can acquire work that exists and place it on the wall, or you can invite artists in to decide, make the decisions themselves, what they should do. And I think that's like a really important idea too, is that why would I, as a program director or curator, impose decisions that an artist that I invited in to make? Why would I do that? It's like up to them. And the thing is that by giving them that trust, by like honoring their voice and giving them that autonomy, that responsibility shift transfers onto them, and so it makes everything more powerful and rich for everyone involved. The risograph machine is one of the toys or tools that we have for art making, and in the original design of the residency program, it requires artists to make a site-specific work or series of site-specific works, make a print or a series of prints in Nat's case, and host a socially engaged event so that there's an opportunity for the public and the artist to intermix, whether that's a reception, a skill share, a workshop, or inviting someone else in to share. Anything that allows a dialogue to happen more was the idea. This is Nat's work. He's really kind of embodying what can be done by taking over the environment, that like the ideas are more important than the architecture or the facility space. Do we have there's not a timer on this thing, right? Is there? You don't know about that? All right, cool. World Question Center. This is Luke and Sarah in one of those shipping containers. And they were reimagining this project of Lee Byron, James Lee Byron. Is that right? Anyone? Byers, thank you. I always mess up his name. Awesome Berkeley artist, conceptual artist. So bringing, like, reimagining conceptual art projects from the 70s in a tech firm was an exciting and challenging proposition. And then we also started with, like, larger scale murals. So that was the beginning, and then we got going. We moved into our analog research lab, which has letterpress, silkscreen, risograph facilities for artists and employees to use. And then embracing that site specificity, Jane Kim researched the birds that migrate around the campus. So not only can artists notice something that's less likely for the general public to notice and shine light on it sociologically or physically, but ecologically, there's artists who are also have that lens. And so for this installation to show not only the birds that lay eggs around the campus, but also what those eggs look like is just a wonderful opportunity to explore and become more aware of what's around. Kelly Ording, really embracing the take over the space idea. You can't see it, but there's paint that this project moves around through the floor and, obviously covering many surfaces. Barbara Holmes, this is like a sketch of hers. She did this to warm up, to do more work. And Paul Morgan's a silkscreen artist. These are painted wood squares that he made a mosaic of. So in all these cases, there's hopefully an opportunity where an artist is able to take part of their practice and evolve it some way and to play with it in a way that they haven't before. A trick that happened was as the program started to take off and we were inviting more Bay Area artists to work with us, a kind of, not stage fright, but that kind of, hey, come down here, really experiment, really the opportunity is for you to push yourself, and if you fail, that's fine. But then, we started having social media and stuff, and then the pressure kind of rose, and so then we had to deal with how to keep artists taking this as a kind of research and experimentation opportunity as opposed to just, a straightforward commissioning opportunity. But Tucker, a great sociologist as well as artist, was able to kind of meet with enough people and understand the culture enough to poke at it, but not from the outside. He almost came in on the inside and could laugh with us instead of at us, and that was a really powerful opportunity. Val Britton, Stephanie Pozovic. We try to do some data visualization stuff, but the data is so encrypted and unavailable other than in just large general numbers that she ended up using her own social media feed to develop this social media dance where she got couples to give them their month of information, and each dance step is like a share or a post or a like or something like that. Jeff Canham worked with an engineer. He found this space in the round and wanted to do sign painting in code, so take a digital language and bring it back analog. And then in working with an engineer, they designed a code that was an infinity loop so that the final work is not only in the round, but in a digital language sense also in the round. I think that what's so nice about this project is that it's an opportunity again for the artist and the engineer to get into a collaboration that neither one had experienced before, and the end result is substantial. This is an example of one of the prints that every artist was making at the time. Chris Duncan came in and, as a kind of platform artist himself, invited 86 other artists, many of whom have practices that would be challenging for us to bring into the Facebook space, but giving them a chance to make a risograph print. And this collection of work overview was a really proud moment for us to be able to expand out into a larger audience network, artist network. He also made some prints himself, which one of the thoughts we had when designing the program was, how could we work with artists in a way that maybe caused employees to quit or change their life path in some way or another? And it was funny because Ben Barry, who founded the program with me, was on a sabbatical. He came back and he told me, he and I were the ones who decided that we wanted to have that be part of our goals, that the if not now when was a print. When he saw that one day, that was the final moment. That was the strike for him, the last straw. And he was like, I need to do something else with my life. I've been fulfilled in this, and now I'm moving on. So it was tangible results. It's I love art for art's sake, but we are working under the ideas that the art that we're supporting being created has a real utility, that it's not just something that's beautiful or decorative, but that it's structural and challenging and or reinforcing to the values of the company and to the community that is inhabiting it. And so to own that process and to really embrace the value of making as opposed to just the value of finished work, we run extensive classes, creative education programming. This is a group of people silk screening. This is Barbara Holmes teaching a beers and Band-Aids class, which made me kind of nervous at the time, but no one cut themselves in carving spoons while they were drinking beers. And Draw Club is a personal favorite and something that I started with Tim Bolonix back in 2012 and is still going strong a few times a month to this day. You know, we have these big conference rooms, and all day they get booked, all of them. It's nuts down there. People are talking, they're you know, trying to push products, they're trying to like, you know, explain their worth and work through problems. It's very, whatever side of the brain, it's like, you know, kind of type A energy in those rooms all week. And so at the end of the day, for us to come in and set up for a nude model to get up on the conference table and pose for 2 or 3 hours with a group of, you know, similar people doing that kind of work all day, to sit quietly, just to feel that energetic shift. It's like a 180. You can like, it's very, very palpable, that quality of a group of people all drawing together. And that's one of the things out of all the artists and projects and amazing things that we've had happen that I'm most proud of is that energy that gets created in that room. And so how artists and art experiences can promote and you know, how systems can be designed to support that kind of energetic shift, I consider those to be transformative moments. And running this program is a tangent. I get asked occasionally about, you know, like, oh, how do we get more money from tech? It's like, tech's rich, give us money, we're artists, we need it. And it's like, come on, people. It's like, that doesn't feel or sound good. But my answer that it took me years to come about this, but it's like the reason that I'm up here, the reason I built this program and stuff is because art saved my life. Like I suffered from seasonal depression as a teen. I was getting into trouble, loved art, but when I studied art more intensely, I was able to have some really profound transformative experiences thanks to art and art instruction. And it dilated my pupils to see more beauty everywhere all the time. And so now I'm just hanging around trying to find ways to offer that to more people because I think it's, you know, I personally experienced how valuable it is for me. And so if we can, as the art community, build transformative experiences for people of means and people of influence and companies of influence, then you don't have to try to sell them on anything. They felt it, they know it, and they're going to want to help to create those kinds of experiences and opportunities for others all the time. So, tangent over. 2014. Thank you. And so this is just kind of like, in each of these projects, you know, if I had like 3 hours, I could go and kind of explain how each project is reinforcing these ideas and these values that we're trying to promote here, and that my hope is that other corporations, other institutions, public spaces, all, you know, copycat this stuff. I think that it's a great opportunity that, like, you know, the Medici model and stuff, you know, is like the courts and then the churches, and then, you know, there's like the big institutions post-industrial revolution, and, you know, there's all these things. What's going on now? Like, where, like, in the Bay Area especially, if we have like a not very robust collector market, how are artists supposed to thrive? And there's all these spaces that are just waiting to be inspired, and it just takes these companies, the people managing and owning these large spaces that house people, to find someone to really thoughtfully design ways for art to intersect with the space and turn on that audience. And that'll really weave a lot more compassion, empathy, you know, enthusiasm and inspiration for all the people in those spaces. It's great to mix up all the mediums, and also by giving artists this call to do what you haven't done before. Find somewhere that's provocative and challenging for you, just leads to a provocative and challenging result. This is New York. So that was the program. You know, we got a few years, we got our base going, and then New York was wanting some art programming. So this is when we broke from the residency model, and we didn't have a curator and a program manager out there to support the artist in making unknown work. So we tried to tailor the values of the program, the finding an opportunity to make what you haven't made before, find a way to really work your ideas into the space free of an object, and to be in dialogue with that space into the program in a commission basis. And it was nice because the quality of the work, we didn't seem to really skip a beat. We were missing a lot of the human connection, the employee watching artists work and feeling a sense of ownership and connection to that work through that human connection. But at the end of the day, artists were still getting compensated at a great market or very supportive rate, and were able to make work that they hadn't made before. Sanaz Malzanati, this project is about the Arab Spring and Occupy movement. She took images from the internet and kaleidoscoped them to make, which you can't see the whole thing, but I think this is like a 65-foot long piece that's phenomenal. This was the first piece made by a machine, a robot. Matt Schlan took a picture of his daughter and ran it through a bunch of sequencers and then had it CNC printed to make this kind of more soothing wave. Gabriel Dahl, this is continuous hundreds of thousands of feet of string that it kind of has an Anish Kapoor quality, really. When you come around these stairs, this static work is actually dynamically changing color very intensely in front of your eyes, and I think that that's a really powerful achievement for an artist to, get to. Then in 2015, we had a new Frank Gehry building, and so that was a tricky time because we would like to take an office as a canvas and invite artists in to realize whatever they want, wherever they want, alongside the employees. Problem with that was that the energy around the opening of this new, freshly built Frank Gehry campus would have been a real loss for us to have open without any art in it. So we had to ask ourselves some hard questions about what was most important to our program and to the experience of working with artists, and we decided to make that concession to work again on more commission bases with artists so that all the energy and momentum and eyes on the opening of this new building wouldn't be without eyes on art projects. And we also decided in shifting our model to invite artists that we had worked with in the residency program back for commission experiences. And it was really interesting to see what an artist could get out of the opportunity of working open-endedly for a period of time in a kind of obscure corporate space versus developing and designing a project ahead of time and working in it kind of as a construction site. And we learned that the results were really exciting, that there's no one way to work with artists. And I think that's the point of this program too, is that it's great to get gallery representation, it's great to get gallery shows, it's great to get shows in museums, it's great to get public commissions, but I think what I'm trying to do and what our team is trying to do is to just provide an additional opportunity alongside the pre-existing ones for artists so that there's just kind of more to go around, People ask me what my favorite work is in this program, and it's totally kind of like PC or whatever, but really the favorite projects of mine are the ones when the artist walked away with a completely new set of tools that they didn't have before. And to see artists develop a new idea, a new medium, a new technique in a corporate office, and then take it to a gallery, take it to a public wall or hospital or museum, those are the projects that are most profound. And that's the kind of focus of the work that we're trying to do, and that I would hope more institutions and places of means would try to adopt similar efforts and goals. Dave Wilson back again with a major work. This is a portrait of the Bay Area. He started the day the building opened, and he installed each panel week after week until it was completed 68 days later. Nat Russell came back with a much more involved, there's wood cutout piece. This is actually outside the boardroom for a while. This was the boardroom for a while, so it was we're trying to put ask questions, sometimes literally, sometimes less so. Jay Nelson returning, and just see how, relative radicalness is another idea that I like, that, at a corporate space, having paintings on the wall, having posters on the wall is kind of normal. Bringing in artists to make whatever they want, wherever they want, is radical. But then if people get used to it, then it's not radical anymore. So then you have to kind of like crank it up again, right? And that's why I like the relative radicalness, is that we're asking artists to push themselves to their edge and perform just outside of it. And if we're not asking the same thing of ourselves as creatives running this program, then we're full of shit. So really, it's really nice to see these opportunities where working with artists over and over again to reaffirm an authentic relationship and commitment to them and their careers is also an opportunity to see the evolution of that growth that they're having. This is funny. This is outside or covering an executive's conference room, and it's it's very trippy. It's nice to kind of sneak some of these things in that don't necessarily make the most sense initially. Alicia McCarthy. So this is also with this new Geary building an opportunity to work with artists who had been working a bit longer, had maybe more representation or more opportunities in their career. I just love this picture because she's painting on Frank Geary's plywood, and Barry McGee is Alicia's Diego Rivera, in the Wall Street Center or Time, whatever he did, where he's he kind of gave the FU to the stock market in New York. This is not, I don't see it that much, but it's just for her to take on his plywood and work with it. For me, I'm this is that kind of collaboration between architect and artist that I don't see a tension. I think that it's a multiplier, a synergy, if anything. And so this is Barry McGee, again, a more established artist, but I felt that it was important that we weren't excluding artists based on their success. And that also, we have found that by bringing in artists from all different places in their career, that kind of reinforces the ecosystem and network of artists that we work with across the board. So an artist who maybe gets paid more from us than they'd been paid in their whole career, it's not a disservice for us to work with an artist much more expensive, because then they're part of a collection that artists who make works like this make, and that's all awesome. And what's great also is that we don't really differentiate between this and any other artist at any other point in their career. That again, it's just the ideas that matter. We don't look at CVs when we're researching artists. It's really just how much we can see a hunger and a curiosity and a boldness in their work that is most attractive to us. Swoon, this is wonderful to bring her in as one of the most successful street artists or artists to come out of that era of time. And Maya Hayek, this was fun. She's quite a handful, which I love. Every time she had these gallons of paint that she would just run on these lines until they ran out. So you could just see hot pink won for the longest run, which always wins in my book. So when did we start? I have until
we have about
1:30?
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Until we open it up for questions.
All right, cool. So, we do a lot of art. We love it. Katharina Gross is very established. She's German. We work predominantly, almost exclusively until now, with local artists. That's very important that for everyone at Facebook and for the artists to know that these local institutions are here and care about them. And but don't tell my boss or whatever, but Katharina Gross was just a personal hero of mine in my 20s in my own studio practice. So I was, perks of the job, kind of. I'm going to 5 minutes. This is kind of man crush opportunity. These guys coming in, Nouveau from London, meeting Barry was really exciting for them. And then this is the work that they made just right across from his. And then they were doing a residency just for a few weeks later, printing and working away, getting some social more social engagement projects. Travis Meinhof is a wonderful weaver and social practitioner. Wait, with 5 minutes. There is one more video I want to show because, again, I think, so here's an example, too. So this is the result of Michelle Blade's residency work. Really strong project, really excited about it. There's work you can't see, very thoughtful and dynamic. But then a year later, inviting her back to do a commission, we were able to work together to develop this project, which, there's a dozen pictures that can show it at least this well, but this was a huge shift in her practice, in her career, and she's been able to evolve this and take this with her everywhere she goes. And that's like an example of that makes me proud of the work that we do and is so central to the work that we do. So I could, show, Sophie Ramos, personal favorite, obviously, not just because she's here. She worked with us. Have you done 3 projects with us now? Yeah. Love just this tenacity, this hunger, this kind of like ability to come in and saturate a space. And that's that kind of like ownership and boldness, playfulness, that live wire energy that is so palpable. It's like if you are coming to a meeting at Facebook and you walk through this hallway, this image doesn't do it justice. You get enveloped in her ideas. And so there's no one object that's hers. She created the space. And one thing I like, there's murals and there's wall paintings, and then I think there's installational painting or installation painting. And when an artist can work with the mediums in a space in a way that allows the viewer to be an integral part of the experience, that's an installation painting. And I think that's, we do a lot of paint in our program, but we're an installation and site-specific program. And when you walk through an environment that an artist made that makes you feel existentially different, when you feel small or large, or you challenge your own relationship to space around you, is radical and something I'm really proud that I think has happened many times within our program. Again, black salt. So the one last thing before I show this video is that we started off working with artists who had kind of a hacker sensibility, who were kind of playing into some of the values of the company, because tech and art are at such odds with each other, or have been, or whatever. But really, there's a creative hunger. There is a desire to solve problems. There's technical rigor in both of these demographics. The hacker spirit, which I had to explain to artists over and over again, is really kind of like just being an artist warrior, that you have an idea and you're going to use whatever means necessary to try to realize this idea that doesn't exist in the world. And I think that is a great way to sum up what most artists are doing, and why then artists are so valuable to be present in a tech community. And we have gone around the world now, so the program's global. And so what's nice about the global programming is that, the point I was making about the kinds of work we were doing to now what we're doing now, there is more identity work happening. We were working, with those kind of material interveners, material, inventors, whatever, and then artists who worked in a kind of like graph network way. But as we developed a base of art throughout our offices, we could then start working with artists who are reflecting a unique and personal worldview. And so we were able to get into some more culturally specific work. And as we expanded our program to every office around the world, that gets really exciting. We have works that speak to a lot of different cultural issues going on throughout the world. Dublin, and again, materials and responsiveness to environments that continue to push the limits of what you would think would be possible in an office space. And back to upping years later, more and more engagement classes, and those classes have spanned to our primary offices around the world as well, and include a much wider range of craft and art-making techniques and processes led by teaching artists. Still, just to run through this, things that get more politically charged, more environmental all the time, and so yeah, just trying to keep an edge. And then after 5 years of programming, I'd always been a huge goal of mine to crest the castle walls, to get this art more out into the public as much as possible, because promoting these artists, not only internally but publicly, is a value of ours and a goal of ours. So this was a 5-year show that happened at the lab. We had over 50 artists presenting work in this space. We had a panel discussion. It was so relieving to finally get out into the public space like this. To rent the lab from the lab, for a month was something that I was really excited to be able to do, and to make this book. We have this 5-year book that covers 220 artists, and it has an open spine. Facebook, produced, paid for the design and all the production elements. But then now what we are doing is we're giving the book over to local nonprofit organizations to take not only like the proceeds, but like 100% of the profits, so that like none of the money is coming back, even production costs, to Facebook. And every book that's sold is going to Southern Exposure, the Lab, Pioneer Works, or other institutions in London and Dublin, where we're primarily based. And I just wanted to close with one of the most recent videos to finish that's yet to be released, because again, I can only speak so well to these points. I think the artists are really the ones at the heart of the matter and the center of attention, and for good reason.
How does one hold on to our old world traditions and give them a new contemporary moment, right? Given the importance of what they mean to us culturally, and how, if we lose them, or if we continue without them, what do we become? So it's quite interesting for me in the Caribbean, without that sense of self and without that sense of a cultural identity, the Caribbean is destined to become a bunch of car park attendants in the secondary backlots of the Americas, where we're queuing up to be something that we're not, right? And it's a big queue. Both my parents were very keen for me to have a sense of identity in the Caribbean, and we went back quite regularly. We're quite lucky in that way as kids. My first experience in the carnival was being captured by blue devils and taken from my grandfather by men covered in blood and blue paint and oil, which left me traumatized and for a lifetime trying to rekindle that experience again. So I think that definitely set me on a journey looking back towards that as an incredible moment that I had to reinvestigate. I'd use doilies in particular because they felt significant of the Caribbean home, in a way of the kind of colour palette that we relate to. In Caribbean families, you'd probably see them in the special room, the room that you can't sit down in. I have a whole team of women working in Istanbul, Syrian refugees that have worked hard to make up a lot of what you see here and now support me in a lot of the doily making for the pieces I'm using. I'm very excited to support them. They have not other opportunities to make money there. They're so excited by how I then move their work forward. It's a great synergy and one that works really well. And I hope more people can figure out ways that we can support pockets of communities working in artisan practices that then translate into the bigger art making process that we're all involved in. What separates art from design, I guess, is that process of following through with something where a huge part of it still exists in the unknown, right? You can't really get there until the moment itself. So you work towards that kind of blindly and unconsciously with the visceral experience of what you've done before and, if you like, I guess, the emotional excitement of what you imagine, quite literally.
I feel like I'm on a plane when I watch that on stage because it gets me kind of choked up. I hope everyone could hear that back there. Zakove, yeah, just like, so the same way that, we're so excited to be able to support him in supporting the Syrian refugees in Istanbul, to make that work. It's like, how can that chain grow longer? And so, whereas in that relative radicalness thing, at first we had to kind of Trojan horse in art to be like, hey, look, it's like, it relates, it makes sense, it's like similar, it's, it's all good. But then once you get that established, then you can go further, and you can keep going further and further, and just, who knows what the end result will be. But I hope that we can continue to find more radical artists to do things that have more intensely socially progressive change and agenda in our programming, and that's kind of where we're at. Thank you for listening. Are we going to do some questions, or we're not going to do some questions?
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions for Drew? All right.
I either did like a really good or bad job.
No, you did a great job. Round of applause.
Just the no question thing,
All right, thank you so much. Is there a lot of interplay between employees and artists beforehand, or does that mainly take place during the installation process?
So initially we would make intro albums. So there's a Facebook inside of Facebook where if you work there, you have it, and it's kind of just like private in that way. And so we would make an album that had an image of the artist at work, and then we'd have 4 or 5 images of projects that they had done, where we would have, it'd be a kind of running narrative of like, this is them, this is what they're about, this project happened here, and this is why we're so excited to have them coming in to work with us. The scale thing is really a blessing and a curse, because that was when we were working with, 8, 10, 12, 16, 22 artists a year. And last year we worked with 132 artists globally. So we have had to make some unfortunate concessions in our program design, because under the ultimate goal that good paying creative projects in the hands of artists are more valuable than some of these, more bespoke details, which I was so proud of originally, but again, like, that bottom dollar, hard to argue with.
Right. Great. Thank you.
Yeah, and so now once the work is up, we then share process shots, finished work, and information about the artists. And we also have our Instagram and Facebook page. We've yet to get the website up. There's been it's like they want to keep it on the product or whatever that stuff is.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. I'm just curious about the interaction between the employees at Facebook with the artists. Is there any engagement, or do people get a chance to see how the artists make work, or give them their feedbacks in terms of like the relationship between people at Facebook versus people who are artists in residence at the Facebook?
Sophie, you want to take the mic?
Well,
Do you mind?
Hello. During the residency program, I had a lot of interaction with the employees just because I was in their office building working right alongside them. So they would, get done with their meeting or whatever and then come out and talk to me and ask me all these questions and stuff like that. And that happened every day, and it was always like different people, although I did make some friends, and then they would come back and see how things were progressing. But definitely the people that worked like right there would see me every day. But then I was just back there for another commission, and there weren't any people in the building yet. So it really just depends on which kind of project you're doing. But I met a lot of people there. And actually, there were some cool people that also wanted to show me what they did, like people who worked in Oculus and stuff. So they would take me. I did my first VR experience there because I just met someone. So yeah, there was sharing on both ends.
I feel like, the experience that happens is an artist finds a site and starts working, and at first the employees are like, and it's really weird. Like the artist will be like, "Yo, what's up with the people here?" Like everyone's just looking at me and kind of freaked out. But then it's a couple days go on, and it's kind of like, hey, "What's up? What you doing?" And then but then it swings all the way in the other way, and we've. Not every time, but there's been a few examples of artists who have had to start working at night and on weekends because they kind of develop a fan club, which is something that's unique to making physical art, or at least in real time. But it becomes daunting socially, for them to handle because people just get so pumped up on what's going on there.
As buildings start to change and things are moved around, is there a plan for the art long term if circumstances change to where they're currently installed?
Work under construction pressures ceases to exist. The work that I made in 2017, or 27, when I made it, I knew that it only had like 6 or 9 months until Facebook was moving out and was going to be gone. So there was always that kind of Zen, like here one day, like, like the idea that like a maker is not a registrar, and that like any energy as a creator spent clinging to what you've made is energy wasted not making new. And there is like uproars when pieces do get deconstructed or decommissioned for construction, but that's part of the ephemeral nature of it. And also the company, they're like, hey, if we don't keep making new products and stuff, like none of this will be here. So kind of another ethos that drives the temporary nature. It's like temporarily permanent, all the work.
We have time for one more question, and then you can find Drew afterwards.
Hi, my name is Cristobal. I'm an artist myself, and I'm very excited about this program. I didn't know about it. I have my first commission asked by a big company, and I have no idea like how you charge for these things, where to research about, anything. Like I struggle finding out how to charge, how I'm gonna make such a big project, and do you guys help artists to kind of like go through this kind of project? And where do I go to find information and help?
Yeah, definitely. I'm not sure where. So there's Wage is a website and an organization that's great. There's also Creative Capital, are two amazing American institutions, 501c3s, I think both of them. Maybe one's a foundation. I recommend them. They're beautiful. I've spent time meeting with them and trying to figure out ways where we could work more closely together in a kind of less formal way. It's my responsibility and the responsibility of the curators that I've hired to work with artists to foster that process with them. Some things that I've learned as an artist when making commissions for other people that have helped me, like that wedding table thing, it's like, what's your time worth? The thing is that the whole market around you is going to try to devaluate your worth. And that's like, oh, it sounds kind of harsh, but it's like, it makes sense because everyone wants more, So like, you're going to have pressure around you every day for people to like pay you less or give you less for your work. You're the only person in the market other than me and other people like me who are going to try to like stand up and promote the quality of your work and the value of your work to raise it up. So ask yourself, what is your time worth? And really try to like be really real about how long that project's going to take you. Make sure that you consider all the materials, all the transportation, like all the meals, and you really, it's a longer conversation that I'm really interested in, and it's so much what this work is about. But those are just some super high level, scratches of the surface of that. But that's one thing we now maybe need artists to have a certificate of like business or something because of how to get them in and contracted and paid and stuff. And we've had pushback. We're like, no, artists don't need that. But then it's like, oh, wait a second. No, we're here to help them evolve their themselves as professionals, and they're business entities. Like, you should get paid a bunch all year. So like, you should have the infrastructure set up and the knowledge base and the accounting to be a light of day, fully functioning, fully successful business as an artist. And that's, hopefully there's people who are asking you, for your work to support you as a collaborator and not a transactional entity in that process.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. We actually are running out of time to go to the next panel, but Drew will be around for questions, so if you want to find him afterwards, let's give him a round of applause. Thank you, Drew.
It's a pleasure being here. Thank you.
We're going to take about a 2-minute break, and then we will start on our next panel about the importance